And there he is, the man of the hour, Mitchell McKinley, who is the Texas rebel living down there in the leftist world of Texas. How you doing, brother?
Man, I'm doing well until you decided to full name me. I guess it's a good thing you don't know my middle name.
Oh boy, what would happen if I heard your middle name?
If you heard it, oh, nothing. It's a normal name. Just I can't hear you. Oh, now I can.
All right, I don't know what's going on. Is it? Can you hear me now, Mitch?
Yeah, I got you. I think it's all these liberals around here trying to interrupt the airwaves and squash our conversation, man.
Well, let's get it in quick because I don't want to be shut down. I know you got some big stories you're working on, Mitchell McKinley, and talk a little bit about a very serious subject with a military, serviceman who's been charged, serving a time for a heinous claim, but the facts don't seem to all be there in this case. And talk a little bit about that, Mitch.
Well, that's the issue, Kevin. The facts are there, but they're not allowing those facts to be brought into evidence. And that's the bigger issue. There's a lot of things that have been suppressed as part of this case, or at least on the surface as I'm reviewing documents. And I've got a treasure trove of documentation that I'm pouring through. Jim has been gracious enough to share quite a bit with me. And it's more about, there's two things at play here. Number one is the suppression of information and evidence that could realistically exonerate this particular individual that we're writing about. And the other piece of it is the exact same judge advocate general from the Air Force that presided over this trial presided over a sexual harassment case for a 2-star general. Now, while the individual we're discussing, Matt, excuse me, is sitting in Leavenworth for the better part of 21, 22 years unless this appeal goes through for him. He's sitting there, in Leavenworth. This 2-star general was stripped of 1 star and allowed to retire with full benefits and pension. And now, granted, the cases were not exactly the same. One centered around alleged sexual abuse, the other around sexual harassment. I understand that. But there is a perception within the military and from the outside looking in now, and even back when I was in, rank has its privileges, right? There's no way they're going to demote a 2-star general to, through a court-martial process and strip him of absolutely everything and put him in Leavenworth or, send him packing as with no money in tow, right? So there's a couple of things there, but yeah, this is not just a Air Force thing. This is now worldwide because part of the allegations are stemming from Australia, from an Australian national, and Jim has put me in touch with an investigative journalist in Australia who is digging into this particular woman that's at the center of this entire case. And so I'm waiting to hear back from him now, but we're going to do some collaboration. I'm going to provide him some information that we have for his story, and he's going to do the same for us as we work in conjunction, not only through LAT, but, through you and your show.
Mitch, I want to say that, first and foremost, the claims that have been made in the court documents, and we're going to be exposing all this because it took me a long time, and I know you as well. We are rounded in the same kind of fundamental beliefs and law and order, and a claim against someone sexually is always a heinous one. And I got to tell you, I have a problem with it. But as I read more of the details of this case, as you mentioned, Jim, the brother, reaching out to us and sharing these facts, I started to realize it looked really bad. And it reminded me of a case, and I'm sorry, I got to pull it up. A Navy SEAL was prosecuted by Barack Obama's administration. You might remember the case out in California for a very similar claim that he actually beat and then ended up having a huge lawsuit against the federal government, millions of dollars. We were supposed to have him on the show. It never worked out. But why? Listen, we got to protect women. We got to protect women from being raped. but we also have to protect the truth. Why do they?
Yeah.
Okay, so what's your thoughts on that as you get to discover?
Look, I mean, we now live in this society, and we'll go back over the last couple of years with the Me Too movement, right? It literally came across as if a woman says it, it's got to be true. That's the end. And while you absolutely must take every allegation and accusation seriously, you also have to do your due diligence and not simply say, well, she said this is what happened, so that's what happened. Let's go. Let's just go torches and pitchforks and burn down the castle, right? That's what investigations are for. And you have to establish the credibility of everybody involved. You have to find witnesses. You have to be willing to look at every last piece of evidence instead of running your entire case on that around something, excuse me, that could be circumstantial or speculative at best. And far too often, that's what we're seeing in a lot of these instances. Now, look, I think you're on the same page with me, Kevin. Mm-hmm. If a man physically assaults a woman, whether it's domestic abuse, sexual abuse, any kind of abuse, if there's credible evidence that individual did it, I'm the first one that tells you pitchforks and torches, right? Burn that dude to the ground. He deserves it. Mm-hmm. But at the same time, we have to establish that the guilt is real and credible instead of just assuming, because now an allegation is all it takes to destroy a life. Right? I mean, how many places
I want to say this too. I told Jim, and we're talking about this, and again, we're not telling too many details because we're getting them, and we want to share them first, with an article that can appropriately set up the conversation. But here's the deal. I told Jim, I said, look, if I at some point feel like my heart's telling me this, and it's not part of what you're trying to expose, I'm going to let him know. I'm not going to sit there.
Absolutely.
And because to your point, I'm always going to lean on the side of a victim. In this situation that we're talking about, it's questionable. And you talked a little bit about the connection internationally to Australia. And I'm going to tip my hat on this one. The story's out there, but not out there like you're going to expose it, and we are going to expose. This is an Australian attorney who, quite honestly, looks like a sex object. And I'm being honest, you saw the photos. Has a past history of making false claims and accusations in similarity to what's taking place here. This is the stuff that stood out to me. You?
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, you're talking about someone who knows the legal system inside and out, has been trying to find a way to become a naturalized, a naturalized U.S. citizen, and thought she had found that way. And when it didn't quite work out because of things going on in Australia, she bailed ship and went the route that it appears that she took. But yeah, she denied under oath that she was under professional investigation in Australia for violations of professional ethics as a lawyer. She denied that under oath, but we have all the evidence pointing to the fact that she was then and is still under investigation for professional misconduct, for being less than honest in a lot of areas, for making false claims and accusations. So, but again, that's just one of those pieces of evidence that the court did not allow to come into play, right, during the court martial. So yeah, 100%. I've never met the woman. I've never had a conversation with her, but everything I'm reading and seeing and the conversations I'm having with different people point to the fact that she's up to no good. And
are you going to make an attempt to reach out to her for a comment about the article?
Not in the original piece, no. So again, like you said, we're setting up the conversation because, and it's like I've told Jim, this is going to be one of those pieces that winds up being a mini series of sorts in the journalistic world. It's going to wind up being a 3, 4, 5 part article because there's way too much to digest in just a single article. Even if it's an extended article where we're writing, 2,500, 3,000 words. I can't shove everything that the readers need to digest into that compact of a document. So it's going to have to be a multi-part series. And the original series is just laying out the reality that we're sitting in right now, and that this family is sitting in, and then breaking out from there and really diving deep into the specifics of each of these aspects.
Crazy story. So, Mitch, you have many other things in the fire, the new job, but also doing some other journalistic responsibilities. What else are you working on these days, Mitch?
Well, you'll because you share the same